So good evening, everyone. We're going to go on a journey on the path of Rabbi Akiva. We're going to study about Rabbi Akiva's life and teachings. But we're going to see that there is one point that actually puts together all of the stations in the journey in the life of Rabbi Akiva together. So, first of all, we are going to start from the very beginning, where you could say a first station, the worker from the Galil. There's a famous story in the Talmud, in a tractate of a Shabbat. So it says like this, you could see in the first source. Tanu Rabbanan, Hadan Chaviro, Lekaf Zchut, Danim Oto, Lekaf Zchut. That whoever judges his friend favorably, he is going to be judged favorably. And there is a story, ומעשה באדם אחד אשר ירד מגליל העליון, ונזכר אצל בעל הבית אחד בדרום 3 שנים. There was once a man whom used to live in the Galil, the Galil Elyon, and he decided to work at someone's fields, orchards, vineyards in the south. It doesn't say the name of the Balabait, the owner. So we are just going to call him a Balabait. So for 3 years, so he worked there. He left his family and kids in order to earn a living, and he worked there for 3 years. Then Erev Yom Kippurim came. It was the eve of Yom Kippur, and the worker approached the Baal Habayit and he told him, please give me my salary. They probably fixed it together that Erev Yom Kippurim is going to be the salary day. So he said, give me my salary, va'elech va'azon ishti u'banai, and I could feed my wife and children. I have been working for you for 3 years, and now it's time to get my money. Amar lo, the Baal Habayit said, en li ma'ot, I don't have money. So there should be silence over here, and that if we would have read the Gemara in a dramatic way, so you could hear a pin fall at the silence. He worked for 3 years, and then the Baal Habayit says, I don't have money. So the worker said, Teni perot, give me fruit. So he said, Enli, I don't have any fruit. Amar lo, Teni karka, give me that's right, a land or real estate. He said, I don't have. And then imagine if this worker was just picking fruits for the Baal Habayit. So it is very strange for him that he doesn't have any food. And then he looks around and he says, Ten li behema, give me cattle. And then in the background you can hear the cattle. You could hear it. And And the Baal Bayit says, Eli, I don't have. So this is a very strange, because he could hear the cattle. And then Tenli Karim Uksatot, because he looks around, it is a beautiful living room, and he sees all kinds of cushions, carpets, blankets, and then the Baal Bayit says, "Any, I don't have any," but he sees it. So it's
lied to him or something.
Well, we're going to see at the end of the story. So again, this would be silence. Then you could hear a pin drop in the room. So it says, "Hifshil kelav le'achorav." He took his kelim, his tools, and he put it on his back. And it says, "V'halach lebeito bepachei nefesh," and he went home devastated. Okay, that is what it says. So this is a shocking story, but it is even more shocking the reaction of the Pa'el, of a worker. Instead of screaming at him, instead of yelling, instead of saying, "I could see all of your wealth, I could see everything, and I could hear the cattle. How could it be that you say that you don't have anything?" It doesn't say any of that. If the worker is silent, he accepts what the Baal Bayit says, and this is a very strange. Okay, there's a continuation to the story. Le'achar haregel means after Sukkot, because what we were talking about at the Erev Yom Kippurim, and then after Sukkot, there's a knock on the worker's door at the Galila Elyon, and it says, "V'yenatal Baal Habayit escharo biyado," the Baal Habayit, he took his money, and he took 3 donkeys, they filled with goods, one with food, one with drinks, one with cakes. V'halach lo lebeito, and he went into the house of the worker in the Galil Elyon. So it says, "Achar she'achlu v'yeshatu, natanu escharo." After they ate and drank, so he gave him his salary. Now, over here, this is something very interesting, because the worker didn't know that the Baal Habayit brought his salary, but he opened the door for him, welcomed him as a good friend, and he gave him food, and he gave him a drink. It shows that he wasn't angry at him at all. And so the Baal Habayit tried to understand. אמר לו, בשעה שאמרת לי, תן לי שכרי, ואמרתי, אין לי מעות, במה חשדתני? When I told you that I didn't have any money, what did you think about me? So the worker said, "Shema pragmatia bezol nizdamna lecha velakachta b'hem." Perhaps you were found a good bargain, and you spent all of your cash, you're buying some goods. Okay? ובשעה שאמרת לי תן לי בהמה ואמרתי אין לי בהמה, במה חשדתני? When you asked me for cattle, and I told you that I don't have any, what did you think about me? אמרתי שמא מוזכרת ביד אחרים. I thought that perhaps it doesn't belong to you, that you lent it to someone else. בשעה שאמרת לי תן לי קרקע ואמרתי לך אין לי קרקע, במה חשדתני? When you asked me for land and I told you but I don't have any land, what did you think about me? So I thought perhaps that it belonged to someone else, that you sold it to someone else. ובשעה שאמרתי לך אין לי פירות, במה חשדתני? And when I told you that I don't have any fruit, what did you think about me? אמרתי שמא אינן מאוסרות. Okay, so I thought to myself that perhaps you didn't take a Chumot Masot, okay? This is a very special worker, very special poel. ובשעה שאמרתי לך אין עיקרים וקסתות במה חשדתני, and when you saw all my cushions and my carpets and my blankets in my living room, and I told you but I don't have any, what did you think? אמרתי שמא הקדיש כל נכסיו לשמיים. That perhaps you did hektish of all of your property to the Beit HaMikdash. That you said that all of my property is like an oath, that everything that it belongs to me, it isn't mine, it is going to be for the Beit HaMikdash. Amar lo, the Baal Bayit said, "Ha'avodah kachaya." That is exactly what happened. Hidarti kol nechasai b'shvil huknus b'ni shelo asak b'Torah. I was so angry at my son because that he didn't want to study Torah that I said, "You think that I'm going to give you all this wealth? You think I'm going to give you this for cattle, for land, for fruit? No, nothing is going to come to you. Everything is going to belong to the Beit HaMikdash." And then I said, "Oh no. What did I do?" But if somebody says a hekdesh, even if it is from anger, that's right, you can't do anything. And then at that moment, the worker came and he said, hey, 3 years after you pass, could you give me my salary? And then, oh no, I don't have anything. So, כשבאתי אצל חבריי בדרום, and then only afterwards, when I was able to get to the sages, התירו לי כל נדריי, they were able to cancel my oath. ואתה, כשם שדנתני לזכות, המקום ידין אותך לזכות. And because that you were able to receive the good in me and to judge me in a righteous way, so Yehi Ratzon that Hashem is going to judge you favorably. So this is the story. And now there are many, many questions, and I would like to hear from you. What questions did you have on this story?
It's a beautiful story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm, as with a lot of stories out of the Talmud, I am assuming that it is not based purely on factual occurrence. But I can't imagine in a circumstance like this, the Baal Bayit saying nothing other than ainly. I don't have. Not trying to explain. Not saying the circumstance right from the beginning. Because I can't provide a source for this. I'm sure if there is a circumstance in which you cannot pay back a debt, you're obligated to tell the person in which you owe the debt, give them some sort of reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine, why any even righteous or even a most righteous person would not at that time demand an explanation.
Mm-hmm. Very good question.
I understand the lesson of it. The lesson is, you should always assume good
Mm-hmm.
when there's a doubt. But like the way that the story is told makes
Right.
it makes me think that there's a bad lesson in there. That it's sort of saying if you don't you don't have to provide an explanation if you can't pay back your debts.
Mm-hmm. Great question. Thank you. A very good question. More questions. Yeah.
So, question. Like a question I would raise is that what did the worker think after he went home? What's gonna do to him? Like, I mean, he worked for free. I don't know for many months, weeks, and years. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Sorry, for years, and he worked for nothing. And what did he think? Okay, what can I do next? Like, did he really have this trust in Hashem that everything? Okay, I gotta get my payment under different circumstances, or that would be my question. What did the worker think? It's not. I don't know if it's discussed later.
Great question. Yeah. More questions. More burning questions.
And I guess also the story starts off saying if you're done spooked, so you'll also be judged with favor. But at the end of the story, I guess we don't really see the return. We see an amazing story action by the person, but we don't really see him, and I guess getting anything in return, which you might expect.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. That is also a great question, which we're going to talk about. That's amazing. Remind me your name?
Oren.
Oren. Yeah. More questions. So, just a few points over here to strengthen the questions. Do you think that the worker was religious?
I mean, it's a Talmudic story about a righteous man. So generally speaking, when one hears a story from the Gemara about a righteous man, the righteous man is religious.
So I could prove to you that he wasn't religious.
He was not religious.
He was not religious.
He was because they made the date for the payment. They made
right. Right. Yeah. Did everyone hear what David said? David said to prove that he was not religious.
I said that because they made this date that he was religious. Because this payment is
Erev Yom Kippur.
No, but you could prove that he's not religious from the same thing. He says on Erev Yom Kippur, give me money so I can feed my children and wife. Don't do that on Yom Kippur.
That's right. And also, where did he live?
In the Galil.
In the Galil, and the story it takes place in the south, right? So it's a couple of days' walk, right? Or a couple of weeks' walk, okay? And it says that he left on Erev Yom Kippur. Now,
that doesn't mean he didn't stop somewhere for Yom Kippur.
What do religious Jews do on Erev Yom Kippur? They go to the mikveh, they daven, that's right, they eat, and they get ready for a Kol Nidre, right? But what Jew goes on a trip all the way to the Galil? And in those days, we didn't have trains or a transportation. He walked. And it also says that he took his tools and put them on his back, okay? So if it would say that he would put his kittel on his back or his talis, okay, fine. So then, but he didn't, okay? So he was there for 3 years. Why is it so urgent to go back on Erev Yom Kippur? So these are just a couple of points. And now, Owen said that we would expect the story to end with a reward, okay? Because that he judged the Baal Bayit favorably, And but he was so righteous, so he was judged favorably. But the story ends in the middle. But the truth is that the story only begins. And the key to understand everything is one extra question. Who was this worker? It obviously is somebody great. Obviously it is someone very, very righteous. He is not religious, but he's righteous. He has got good character traits. So the truth is that he was a very, very special person, one of the greatest, and his name was
Natan Kotler.
Rabbi Akiva. It was Rabbi Akiva, and if you look at the source number 2, in the Shiltod, the Rav Achai Gaon, Rav Achai Gaon was one of the Gaonim, and it says here, דתניא הדן את חברו לכף זכות, דנים אותו מן השמיים לכף זכות, ומעשה ברבי עקיבא ben Yosef. It is talking about Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef, and he worked for Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanus. So the fact that we know that it is Rabbi Akiva, it answers many questions.
But also begs another question.
Yes?
Rabbi Akiva's wife made a condition to marry him that he would be Baal Tshuva. So clearly, he doesn't have a wife. Or he does have a wife. What's...
Okay, very good. So the truth is that Rabbi Akiva was probably married a few times throughout his life, and at the beginning stages of his life, for 40 years actually, he was an Am Haaretz. He was not religious. Some people say that he was, but it seems from this story that he was not religious, and he actually did not like Talmidei Chachamim at that stage. So if that's a good question, I don't know what the answer is, but he probably knew that the Baal Bayit was such a righteous person that he was sure that everything is going to turn out. But this story actually shows us who Rabbi Akiva was when he was young. For his first 40 years, he was able to see the good in the worst situation, and this is actually going to be something that is going to put all his life together. We are going to go on 7 different stations, and we are going to see that this unique ability to judge the situation and the people around him from a good perspective, seeing the good, this is something that it combines all his life together. So, just to add something, that the Chatam Sofer says, based on the Shiltod that we just saw, that it proves that even when Rabbi Akiva was an Am Haaretz, he was not religious, he still had Midot Tovot, he still had a good character traits in a unique way. Okay, now, so we still I just have to say that based on the Tosfot, in Ketubot for Tosfot he proves that even though Rabbi Akiva was an Am Haaretz, he still kept the mitzvot. So it was not accurate what I said that he was not religious. A better explanation would be that he was not learned. But so obviously he probably did stop somewhere for Yom Kippur, but he was still he traveling. Like he did not do what pious Jews would do to go to a yeshua and everything on Yom Kippur, but he went on a journey. But that was for the beginning until age of 40. But something happened when he reached 40. So we please look at the first station. Okay, what is stronger than stone? Okay, so it says over here in Avodat Rabbi Natan, you could see it. מה היה תחילתו של רבי עקיבא? How did Rabbi Akiva start? אמרו בן 40 שנה היה ולא שנה כלום. He was age 40 and he did not learn anything, nothing. פעם אחת, one time, היה עומד על פי הבאר. אמר מי חקק אבן זו? אמרו לו המים שתדיר נופלים עליה בכל יום. So Rabbi Akiva was a shepherd, and one day he was standing next to the Be'el, the well, and he saw that the stone had a hole in it. So he asked how did the stone have a hole in it? So we told him that the drops of water that he fell onto the stone, they caused this hole. So he said, מיד היה רבי עקיבא דן קל וחומר בעצמו. מה רך פסל את הקשה, דברי תורה שקשים כברזל, על אחת כמה וכמה שיחקקו את ליבי שהוא בשר ודם. מיד חזר ללמוד תורה. So he said, if something soft can penetrate, but over here, so it says a pasal that can shape something hard. So divrei Torah, the words of Torah, can definitely penetrate through my heart and shape my heart. So it says that he went and he studied the Torah. הלך הוא ובנו וישבו אצל מלמדי התינוקות. So he and his son went and they went to Talmud Torah, like a kindergarten. אמר לי Rabbi, למדני Torah. So he asked the teacher if he could teach him the Torah. So it says that they studied together until he learned all of the Aleph Bet, and then he learned the Sefer Vayikra. היה לומד והולך עד שלמד את כל התורה כולה. So he was able to study the whole Torah. So what is special about the story is that Rabbi Akiva could have given up and said, look, I am already 40 years old. There is no chance that I could start learning the whole Torah. It is too difficult. It is impossible. I can't do it. But he judged himself favorably. he was able to see the good within himself. So if we connect this story to the previous story, and perhaps this is going to answer part of the question of Oren, that what was the reward of a worker who judged the Balabite favorably. The reward was self-rewarding, that he himself was able to judge himself favorably. So now we're going to see the third station, okay? This is the belief of Rachel. So this is a famous story. It says in the Ketubot that Rachel was the daughter of a very wealthy man called the Kalba Savua. It says in the Talmud that Jerusalem had a three very wealthy people, that with their wealth they could have they were able to withstand the two of the Romans for many years. I don't remember the exact amount of years, but it says in the Talmud that they had so much money, they had so much food, they had storehouses, they had everything. So he was a very wealthy person. And his daughter, Rachel,
Which Rachel is it?
Rachel, the daughter of Rabbi Akiva. Not of Rabbi Akiva, of the Kalba Savua. At the end, she married Rabbi Akiva. So she saw Rabbi Akiva, and she saw that he had good character traits, but he was not learned. He was a simple person at that time. He was a shepherd. Amrale, she said to him, Im et kadesh lecha, etelech labet midrash. If I marry you, are you going to study Torah? So he said yes. So they got married secretly, and then she sent him to the Beit HaMidrash. It says, Shama Abua Apkami Beitei. The moment that her father heard about it, a Kalba Shabua, this wealthy person, of this honorable person, as soon as he heard that his daughter married a shepherd, he was furious. He was so angry that he said that you are not my daughter anymore. You are going to leave home. I am not going to give you any money at all. Now, we could see that the previous story that we heard, it is a bit similar, but it is the opposite, right? At the previous story, the Baal Habayit said to his son, because that you are not going to study Torah, so I ban you from all of my assets. So in an opposite way, so also the father of the Kalba of Rachel, so he says to her, since you are marrying this ignorant person, the simple person, you are not my daughter anymore. So it says that Rabbi Akiva went for 12 years and he studied Torah, and then it says in a different place in the Talmud in the Nedarim, there's a story about what happened. So it describes how poor they were. So it says that at the winter time they used to sleep in the barn. And then in the morning, Rabbi Akiva used to pull out all of the straw from her hair, because if they didn't have any money, they slept in the barn, filled with hay. And then he told her, one day I am going to be wealthy. And then I am going to buy you Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. Now, Jerusalem of the gold. It was at that time the most precious jewelry that anyone could get. It was called Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. So I'm going to skip a little. So it says that at the end, Rabbi Akiva studied for 24 years, and he had 12,000 students. He had 12,000 students, and at the end of the story, it says that Rabbi Akiva came back after studying for 24 years, and then a Kalba Savua came to him, and he didn't know that he was the same shepherd that he banned his son-in-law and his daughter from his home. So he said to him, that I heard that you were the greatest sage, and I'm very upset that I banned my daughter from everything, and she lives in poverty. Since you are a big sage, could you undo my vow? So Rabbi Akiva said yes. And he told him, this is me. Yeah?
How can you do that if, like a judge, the Torah says a judge shouldn't judge a case where he is involved, which is where the American court system gets it, where you're supposed to dismiss yourself.
That's right. That's a good question.
How can he absolve the neder, the neder directly affects him?
That's a good question.
Similar concept?
Very good question. I do not know, but probably he brought his students, that he probably did a Beit Din, that he wasn't involved. But he said to him, I think, if you would have known that this ignorant shepherd would someday be a great scholar, would you have vowed this neder from the first place? This is a petach that you could find in the neder. But I'm sure that is a students of formed a Beit Din. But it's a good question, a very good question. Okay, so we could see over here also have the reward, and this is another answer to your question, or from the beginning of that we asked, what was the reward that this worker received, and the reward is that Rachel believed in him. She saw the good in him. And also Rabbi Akiva saw the good in the situation, that they were in the greatest of a poverty situation that could be, and he was able to receive the Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, that one day I'm going to buy Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. And it says at the end that Rabbi Akiva bought her the Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. So this was this story. And now we're going to move to the fourth station. Actually, perhaps we are going to skip the 4th station, and we will move to the 5th station, okay? The 5th station, and it goes like this. Just a moment, I'm just going to skip over here. Okay, there's another famous story about Rabbi Akiva, the donkey, the rooster, and the candle. Okay, so Rabbi Akiva used to always say, Kol man David Rachmana le'yatav avid, but everything that Hashem does, it is going to be for good. One day, he was traveling, and he took with him a donkey, so he could ride on, a rooster, to serve as his alarm clock to wake him up in the morning so he could study Torah, and a candle so he could study Torah during the night. Okay, so one day he came to a city, and he tried to find a place to stay, but nobody accepted him because he was wanted by the Romans, and everyone was scared that if they accept him, the Romans are going to come and they're going to kill him. So he didn't have any choice, so he went to the field outside the city. So he stayed there. Then in the middle of the night, suddenly a gust of wind came and blew out his candle. So he wanted to study Torah, and now he couldn't. So he said, Kol man David Rachmana le'yatav avid, but everything that Hashem does, everything is for the good. And he also said the same thing after they didn't accept him to stay in the city. And then it says that a lion came and the lion ate his donkey. Okay? Ate his donkey, and then, as you said, in those days there were lions. Okay, there were lions and also bears roaming around. Okay? So the lion came and ate his donkey. Okay? And then, so we said, Kol man David Rachmana le'yatav avid, and then a cat came and ate his rooster. Okay, what?
No.
So then, in the morning, so it turned out that in the middle of the night, the Romans came, they went into the city, they took everyone captive, and if Rabbi Akiva would have been there, so he would have been a captive too, and if he would have had a candle, so what would happen? They would see him, and if he would have had the donkey and the rooster, they would hear him and they would kill him too. So Rabbi Akiva said, you see everyone? Didn't I tell you that everything that Hashem does, it is for the best? Okay? So if we could see over here, again, that Rabbi Akiva always used to see the good in the situation, and now we're going to reach the 7th station. 7th station. I am skipping the 6th station because we are going to talk about it a different time. Okay, so the 7th station, the fox and the laughter. Okay, this is a very interesting story. שוב פעם אחת היו עולים לירושלים, Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues. After the destruction of the temple, they came to Jerusalem, and when they got to Mount Scopus, Har Tzafim, so they tore their clothes because they saw they looked down and they saw that from the Temple Mount a fox was coming out of the Holy of Holies, and they were devastated.
The Beit HaMikdash was destroyed.
Yes.
And in the first story, the one where he's saying he's a worker in the Galim, how was it hekdesh if there was no Beit HaMikdash?
So that happened the year before. When he was young.
Beit HaMikdash was still there.
Yeah, right. So all of the sages started crying. They were weeping, but Rabbi Akiva was laughing. So they told him, "Why are you laughing? This is the worst situation there could ever be." So, like a good Jew, so he answered them with a question, "And why are you crying?" So they told him, "מקום שכתוב לו בו והזר הקרב יומת ועכשיו שועלים הלכו בו ולא נבכה." This is the place that it says that any foreigner who would come into the Holy of Holies is going to be killed, and now foxes roam around here. We should not cry. So he told him, "Lekach ani mitzachek." That is exactly why I am laughing. Why? Dichtiv va'ida li edim ne'emanim et Uriah HaKohen v'et Zechariah ben Yevarechayahu. There were two prophets. Who said prophecies about Jerusalem. Okay. The prophecy of Uriah said that Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. The temple is going to be destroyed. But the prophecy of Zechariah, it says, "Od yeshvu zekenim uzekenot b'chovot Yerushalayim." There's going to be a time when the elderly are going to sit in the streets of Jerusalem, and the children are going to play. Now, if you would go to the old city, so there is a beautiful courtyard, you call it a Kikar Batei Machaseh. You should go with it. It is amazing. And there are free schools around, and at the break time, all the kids run out and they play in that courtyard. And then there is a stone, and it is engraved in the stone the prophecy of Zechariah that there is going to be a time that the children are going to play in the streets of Jerusalem. So you could really see the prophecy alive. So Rabbi Akiva said, if the prophecy of the destruction came true, also the prophecy of a redemption is going to come true. So the sages said to him, Akiva nichimtanu, you comforted us. So there are many questions about this prophecy and about Rabbi Akiva. There are many questions. What questions could you ask?
Why didn't the other sages think like him?
Mm-hmm. Why didn't they? How did it? What was special about Rabbi Akiva's perspective?
Of course, you could answer that by saying for them, they had been learning Torah their whole life. They've been coming from families where that was what you do. Whereas Rabbi Akiva, he personally saw it. He before was, you could call, in a state of destruction, he wanted Beit HaMikdash, but he was rebuilt, so to say, when he became Talmid Chacham.
Beautiful. Yeah. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zatzal, so he told a story. You could find it on on the internet if you write what Jerusalem means for me. So he tells the story that after the Six-Day War, so he was able to come to Jerusalem. For the first time, he was able to come close to the Kotler, and then he stood on a Mount Escopus and he looked down out of the Rabbi, and then he realized that he stood in the same place that Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues stood 2,000 years ago. And then he said to himself, Rabbi Akiva laughed, but would he have laughed if he knew how long it would take? If it would take 2,000 years, would he still laugh? Yes. So Rabbi Jonathan Sachs said yes, because that the Jewish people are filled with hope, and we remember the Jerusalem during our prayers, during our weddings, during Chas v'Chalila also during mourning. So we say Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Shar Evlei Tzion v'Yushalayim. When we build a new house, so we put some of the paint, so we take off in order to remember the destruction of the temple. So the nation of Israel always remembered Jerusalem, and this is what it gave us hope. So what?
We're good at waiting.
That's right. But this morning, I was thinking about what Rabbi Sachs said, and I thought to add something, that the fact that Rabbi Akiva laughed, he knew that that his laughter is going to be remembered. That his laughter is going to be remembered, and it is going to give hope throughout the centuries. And it did, but this is at the end of a Makot, and whoever studies this tractate, so when you do a Yisiyum, so you remember this, and at that time, everything that the Tanaim did had very important meaning. So Rabbi Akiva actually, he knew that his laughter is going to be remembered and it's going to give hope. So I would just like to say something else about this, that Rabbi Akiva understood that the destruction itself is good. Why is the destruction itself good? Because, what? No, say.
Just to remind the Jewish people what they need to do in order to merit the Beit HaMikdash. Because of the reason it was destroyed, it's a good reminder.
That's right, it is also a good reminder. And also there's something else, that the destruction itself was good. Why? Because the people of Israel sinned. So instead of the people of Israel being destroyed, the temple was destroyed. The temple is just a building. And because that the people of Israel didn't do what they were supposed to do, so the building didn't have any meaning anymore. It was meaningless. So the destruction actually came to save the people of Israel. So this is something that the Aruch LaNer says. Now, to conclude, we are going to see the 8th station, and this actually talks about when Rabbi Akiva died, who was murdered actually by the Romans. And what?
It was not pleasant.
That's right. So it says, "B'sha'ah shehotzio et Rabbi Akiva lahariga, zman kriyat shema haya." At the time when Rabbi Akiva was executed, it was the time to say kriyat shema. So if they were torturing him, v'haya mekabel alav ol malchut shamayim, and he said kriyat shema. So his Talmidim said to him, "You were saying a kriyat shema now?" So he said to him, "Kol yamai הייתי מצטער על פסוק זה בכל נפשך, אפילו נוטל את נשמתך." אמרתי, מתי יבוא לידי ואקיימנו? ועכשיו שבא לידי ולא אקיימנו, היה מעריך באחד עד שיצא נשמתו באחד. And then he passed away when he said, Echad. So his Talmidim, you couldn't understand why at these terrible moments is Rabbi Akiva saying Kriyat Shema. So what is so special about a Kriyat Shema?
It's not even that it's so special. It's that the time arrived and it was the last thing he could do.
Mm-hmm. So one could explain it like this, that it was the last mitzvah that he could do. But I would like to present another explanation, and you could see in source 19, it says in the Gemara in Psachim, it says, "V'haya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz b'yom hahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad." That there is going to be a time that Hashem's name is going to be one. So the Talmud would ask, wait, if it says that in the future Hashem's name is going to be one, so it means that now Hashem's name is not one. So the sages say, "Lo ke'olam hazeh ha'olam haba," the world, this world, so when we receive a good news, so we say Baruch Atov Yamitiv. And then when we receive bad news, so we say Baruch Dayana Emet. But in the world to come, Kulo HaTov HaMitiv. Even if it's going to be bad news, we are going to say Atov HaMitiv. So there's a question, wait, you want to tell me that in the world to come, there's going to be bad news? So the answer is, this is the answer of Venoda Behuda, who was one of the greatest poskim. He's got a famous response called Shut Noda Behuda. And he says like this, that it doesn't mean that at the world to come there is going to be bad news. No, of course not. It is going to be a peaceful time. Everything is going to be okay. But at the world to come, we're going to have special glasses. We're going to be able to look back at all the terrible things that happened to us at the past, and we're going to understand them. We're going to be able to say about them, Baruch Atov HaMitiv. Because of the world to come, we're going to have a different perspective. We are going to be able to see the good in the situation. Nowadays it is impossible. And nowadays nobody can say Baruch Atov HaMitiv when something bad happens. We are not allowed to. We have to mourn. We have to face the reality as it is. But in the world to come, we are going to be able to look back and we're going to see the good. So, Kriyat Shema actually emphasizes this idea that Hashem's name is one. Everything is united. If the truth is, but even if we don't see the good, nowadays we have to believe that it exists. If there's a story that you know that after Yosef was in Egypt for 22 years, he didn't see his father. And his father Yaakov, he thought that he died. At the end, when he finally sees him, so what the sages said, that he said Kriyat Shema. So, why Kriyat Shema? Couldn't you say it a bit earlier, a bit after? You waited 22 years to embrace your son after you thought he died. Now is the time that you say Kriyat Shema? So the truth is that we have to understand, Mr. Two, we go a bit before. So when Yaakov he sent his sons to Egypt because there was a famine, and then there was basically a crazy a ruler who asked for his son Binyamin to come. At the time, Yaakov didn't know if it was Yosef, that he thought that this Egyptian leader asks for a Binyamin to come, and then everything is terrible. He is my only son. So he says, Lama hereotem li la'agid la'isha od lachemach. Why did you tell him that you have another brother? So Chazal say that Yaakov Avinu never said anything of nonsense apart from this. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, אני עוסק להמליך את בנו במצרים, והוא אומר, למה הראיתם לי? I am making his son like a king in Egypt. And when he says, lama hariotem li, you think it's bad what is happening? It is not bad at all. It is only bad because you only see part of the facts. You only see part of the picture. So at the time, Yaakov thought that something bad is happening. But only at that special moment when he met Yosef, so he finally understood everything. He finally understood. Now, sometimes in our lives, so there are bad things that happen, and at the time we really don't understand why they happened. But sometimes we merit to have these moments of truth, these moments of that our eyes open up and we suddenly understand why all these bad things had to happen. This is a very empowering moment. This is a very special moment that if you have a moment like that in your life when you suddenly understand why things had to happen the way they happened. So remember to say Kriyat Shema at that time, like Yaakov Avinu did and Rabbi Akiva did. So the verse of the Kriyat Shema emphasizes the faith in the unity of Hashem. That also the bad things that happen, they happen for a reason. So Rabbi Akiva actually, by saying a Kriyat Shema at the moment when he was passing away from this world, had actually put his life together, that he was able to receive the good in every situation, the good in any person. He was able to receive the good. So if we connect all of his different stations in his life, so we can see that everything leads to the idea that the path of Rabbi Akiva is seeing the good. Any questions, any comments, any insights?
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's great.
Thank you. No questions? What?
How old is he when he was executed?
Sorry?
How old is he when he died?